for Native Americans. In tonight's KELOLAND News investigation, Angela Kennecke reveals the threat behind the boarding schools and the unmarked graves discovered at the old Hiawatha Indian Insane Asylum site.
Most golfers hitting the links at the Hiawatha Golf Course in Canton probably don't realize what lies between the 4th and 5th fairways. A small cemetery, a reminder of South Dakota's dark past, is marked off by a wooden fence tied with ribbons and feathers.
As we enter from the west side, we come across the monument that has 120 names of those that we know are interned here.
At least 120 Native Americans lived in deplorable conditions until they died at the Hiawatha Indian Insane Asylum. In all, 400 Native American inmates were housed here over 3 decades.
The threat around the country, and we've been told by elders that they heard this in boarding school, that if they were bad, they would be sent to Canton, and everyone knew it was a death sentence. If you were sent there, you didn't really come out.
All that remains today of the asylum building is part of the front entrance, which has been incorporated into a sign for the golf course. The original barns are also still standing. However, several keepers of the Hiawatha Indian Insane Asylum story are making sure what took place here is not forgotten.
People vanished out of boarding schools. People went to jail and didn't come back. So people didn't know where their relatives were. So it's still a shock. It's like finding out that you had somebody in your family who was in a concentration camp.
The concentration camp analogy is not far-fetched.
And there actually is some evidence that Hitler studied what we did with the reservations, the boarding schools in Canton, to figure out how to create the concentrations that he created in Germany for the Nazis. So it's a worldwide story, not just a local story.
A horrific story of shocking conditions.
It's not an insane asylum. It's a prison. People are shackled to beds with chamber pots, even though it was state-of-the-art with toilets and running water and all of this. The place was caked in soot. People are lying in their feces, maggots crawling on them.
Disease ran rampant and untreated. While Richard Pettigrew is often hailed as the founding father of Sioux Falls and South Dakota's first senator, he had a hand in Hiawatha.
So Senator Pettigrew saw this as his solution to the Indian problem, and he also saw it as a moneymaker.
A moneymaker it was. Thousands of tourists flocked to the asylum, buying up souvenir plates and spoons.
Did the tourists see how people were treated?
They only were allowed in at certain times, certain days.
Complaints about what was going on in Hiawatha led to more than 24 investigations by federal authorities, but it was never enough to shut it down.
And there's reports that say these poor people are stuck in this terrible place, but they're going to have to stay here till they die.
Wow, that really happened in America?
Here,
South Dakota.
It happened right here.
Right. 53 tribes are represented in this cemetery from all over the nation.
Only 2 grave markers have surfaced. And while the burial map lists 121 names, ground sensing technology indicates there may be even more bodies.
They found in the first row on this side 7 other anomalies that do not have names on the plot map. So we don't know.
There are suspicions there are bodies elsewhere. We know that some bodies were shipped back to reservations, but we're not really sure how often that really happened.
It's always been a battle or a massacre, or, I call this the slowest massacre on record, because they just slowly did away for 30 years with our Mitako Uyase.
Jerry Fogg is an artist and member of the Yankton Sioux tribe.
When we do talk of our people and stuff, we say Mitako Uyase, which is we are all related. And even though we don't know these people and we have never met their relatives or anything else, in spirit, we are all related in who we are.
Fogg uses his art to keep the story of Hiawatha alive.
I talk about my artwork, and then I come across a piece that I've done on Hiawatha, and I mention, this is the Hiawatha Indian Insane Asylum, and everybody starts looking at each other. What? And I said, yes, this is, outside of Canton. And then, they find it hard to believe.
The horrors that took place here aren't well documented, and even those records were sealed for 70 years, not being made public until the early 2000s. Only a few artifacts remain, like these dolls made by an inmate. After Hiawatha was finally shut down in 1933, the building changed hands a few times before being dismantled. The cemetery is the only physical reminder of the suffering Native Americans endured.
It's quite a humbling and kind of emotional experience when you come in and you feel the spirit that's here. It's a dark place in our history, but it's something that has to be brought out.
Nobody is here to take care of these 53 different tribes, 124 plus Native Americans. Nobody's there to speak up for them. You know, they lay out there in the cold and the heat without any representation. And I am very happy for the keepers to come forward and include me in this process.